Hello, family. Well, we have survived week one of this pandemic. I've spoken to many of you and heard how you've stayed healthy and safe, and that has been a big relief to me and the other leaders in the student ministry as well as the church as a whole. My prayer is that continues and that you guys continue to stay safe in quarantine and just during this time that God would bless you with your time with your family and through your friends, even if that may be through social media or some other kind of electronic communication. But what I want to make sure in this time is that we stay connected as a student ministry. And so over the days and weeks this may continue on, expect on Sunday afternoons an upload to our Facebook page of a brief devotion from me. And then on Tuesday nights at 7 p.m., as well as on Thursday nights at 7 p.m., my wife, Emily, and her good friend, Brandy Scarborough, will be on our Facebook Live, our Instagram Live, just to answer any of your questions, hang out with you. And then parents, one of the things that is really important with this devotional time is that there will be some questions that will be available with this posting on our Facebook page to go with your students or as a family. That is completely up to you. But we want to make sure that we are encouraging, that we are making sure that we are pointing you to the right place of comfort and joy during this uncertain time, which is Jesus. And so just use this time to glorify God and grow closer as a family to Jesus. So without any further ado, the text that I would like to just highlight during this video this week is it found in John chapter 20, and it follows Jesus's resurrection. We have Mary coming to the tomb and being very unsettled by the fact that Jesus is not there, goes and runs and grabs Peter and John, and they come back and they're just as bewildered as what is going on. And then Jesus appears to Mary and basically tells her, I've come back to life, and that's the disciples are going to have an appearance themselves similar to Mary's, where Jesus just shows up where they're all meeting, and one of them is not there. And this is where the story picks up in verse 24 of John chapter 20. Now Thomas, one of the 12, called the twin, was not with them when Jesus came. So the other disciples told him, "We have seen the Lord." But catch what he does here. But he, Thomas, said to them, "Unless I see in his hands the marks of the nails, and place my finger into the mark of the nails, and place my hand into his side, I will never believe." Wow. A man with Jesus for 3 years. And I think this is what's cool. John doesn't want us to miss out on the significance of Thomas's words. So he says, 8 days later, his disciples were inside again, and Thomas was with them. Okay, so this time Thomas is with everybody. And although the doors were locked, Jesus came and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." Then he said to Thomas, "Put your finger here and see my hands, and put your hand and place it in my side. Do not disbelieve, but believe." Wow. Jesus takes word for word what Thomas says and says, okay, here's your opportunity. And I love what Thomas's reaction here is this. Thomas answered him, "My Lord and my God." It's a big turnaround there. And then what's even more fascinating is what Jesus says to Thomas next. Jesus said to him, "Have you believed because you have seen me? Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed." So the reason I bring these verses up, and the reason I think they're so important as they speak to this uncertain time that each and every one of us is living through, is that we have Thomas, who is often referred to as the doubting Thomas. I remember growing up many times when I would doubt something, maybe my mom or someone else, another adult in my life would say, "Well, stop being a doubting Thomas." But I think Thomas gets an undue reputation as a doubter. In fact, I think Thomas's problem is far worse than doubt. You see, doubt is just reality, just having questions. You're just not so certain. You're not quite as grounded on what you think is real as you should be. But doubt is not the issue for Thomas. You see, Thomas has these words that are just hard to wrestle with as a believer and follower of Jesus, especially as you think about the fact that this man walks with Jesus and sees his miracles and all the things that Jesus has done over 3 years. And yet he still struggles to believe that Jesus, who has raised other people from the dead, has himself come back to life. And he says, unless I see the holes, unless I literally get my hands on Jesus and say, there's where the nail went. Oh, there's where the spear pierced his side, I'm not going to believe. And when Jesus shows up and Thomas sees him and hears him, his response is immediate belief. But Jesus wants to make sure that Thomas understands this next thing, the disciples understand this next thing, and that we understand this next thing. He said, Thomas, I'm going to paraphrase Jesus for a moment here. Thomas, the issue is not that you doubted whether or not I came back to life. All the other disciples were in the same boat as you. It's a really hard thing to believe. No one else has done this before. But Thomas, your issue is not that you doubted, that you were fearful, that you were worried that this may not be true. It wasn't even your questions that I had a problem with. Thomas, you were unbelieving, and that is the issue. Blessed are the people that are going to believe, even in spite or despite the doubts that they might have. So in this uncertain time, as we have a lot of doubts, as we have a lot of fears, Jesus is inviting us into simply believing him, simply trusting him. I don't know if there's a better word any day, but especially today, when we have so much fear and so many reasons maybe to fear, but at the same time, maybe not enough reasons to be panicking just yet. We don't have all the answers even about this coronavirus. We have a lot of uncertainties more than anything else. But the one thing that is certain, the one thing that is true, is Jesus is calling us to simply trust him. He is a safe place. He is the safest place. And even in the darkest or most difficult times, his grace is more than enough to carry us through. I love you guys. I really miss you. I can't wait until we get back to meeting face to face. But until then, just know that your student pastor, your student leaders, and your church loves you. Talk to you soon.